Can I just touch on, because I'm a really big advocate for harm reduction, like you guys have talked about, and as you've both touched on this stigma of when a lapse isn't a failure or that's not the way that you consider it, how do you both feel now about your clean timers, essentially? Do you feel like that relapse is part of recovery, or what do you say to people when you see like Philip Seymour Hoffman after 20 years, or Chevy Chase who's going back into rehab now? As counselors, what would you say to somebody to try to prevent that one day lapse or one weekend lapse turning into an entire tailspin?
Yeah.
So one of the issues, so I went through 12-step, and I'm not anti-12-step, but what I would say, one of the major issues I have with 12-step is that it embeds a system of dependency that can be very difficult. So what it says is, okay, you were sober for 90 days, you had a drink, you have to go to the very beginning, you forgot everything. Where harm reduction says, in 91 days you drank once.
Yeah.
What did you do? That's so awesome. Look at the progress that you've made. And so some people are really motivated by positive rewards and by acknowledging their accomplishments. And some people are really motivated by that sort of support structure of 12-step and that sort of accountability that they have based into it. And I think each individual has to go with what works for them. And one of the things that happens is that over time, for people who have not used substances in a while, they play those different scenarios out differently, and a lot of times people become disconnected from their support systems, or they forget what they are entirely. And so, in the case of Philip Seymour Hoffman in particular, the narrative is that he was clean 20 years, then he relapsed. Yes, but he ended up dying. They didn't want him to get on a medication-assisted therapy. So there was, incidents with him going back and forth. So he went into rehab. They wanted him to go to rehab. He didn't want to stay. But in the community, he could have been supported with the medication-assisted therapy. And there would have been less chance of him overdosing and dying, which was the same thing that happened with Corey Monteith, who was an actor that was on Glee, is the studio specifically did not want him on a medication-assisted therapy. They sent him to rehab, and then he relapsed and died. So I think that we need all of it. So abstinence is on the harm reduction continuum, and I think people go through different stages, and they need to be supported at those various stages. My issue is just that there's sort of a shaming that goes on where you don't have that. It's like a club. We're the clean club, and you're not in it.
Yeah.
And that's difficult for me because I've seen what happens when people are not in that club, and how it has led to suicides of people I know and stuff like that. So I think do what works for you. Do what works. The individual has to do what works for them, and that's going to vary from person to person. And also acknowledging your success and not feeling like, well, I've used now. Do I need to go jump off a bridge because I'm going to have to tell people?
Yeah.
So I think that really acknowledging like having an innate sense of the positive changes that you've made in your life.
Yeah. What she said.
Well, but on your side, I guess, like you were talking about, you had all this positivity. You'd already written the books, but after having that bit of Captain Morgan, did you want to go and hurl your 5-year chip into the ocean and just say fuck it all, or?
It's Alan Marlack from here, from Seattle, University of Washington. He's like the what do you call him, the Mahatma Gandhi, right?
Yeah.
Of addiction treatment. He developed relapse prevention. He's actually the guy that came up with the word relapse, and he cursed himself for doing that, right? Because he founded harm reduction. Because he identified something called the abstinence violation effect, which is you violate abstinence, and here's the effect, right? The effect is what? What happened to me? Up again. Such a shit. Such a loser. I'm packing my bags. I'm getting out of here. Where am I going? Straight to the liquor store, right? But Maureen intercepted it, right? She intercepted it and said, no. She said, what would you say to your patients, your clients? Oh, yeah, right. I say to them, hey, so what? You picked up again. So what? You used again. Right? What you have, this is the definition of our substance use disorder. with the American Medical Association, a chronic relapsing disease, right? To get diagnosed with it, you have to have that. And most treatment centers kick people out for relapsing. What the hell? Right? Would that happen if you had cancer? Would they kick you out? Right? Would people come to your door with casseroles? Right? If you know, that's what they do for a cancer victim when they have a relapse. So we have to just change all that language. I don't use the word anymore. I use recurrence. Recurrence. Right? It doesn't have that sting, right? It doesn't have that violation effect.
Doesn't quite generate that cognitive distortion of an
Yeah.
all or nothing thinking. Like you said, either you're in or you're out, or it's all black or white.
We've been so indoctrinated, right, with that absent-based mind. The whole of society. You talk to anybody and they'll say, oh, you're an alcoholic. Yeah, you better go to AA. Doctors. You'd stop somebody on the street here and say, oh, I think I'm an alcoholic. What should I do? Well, go to AA. That's what I did. With all of my people for 30-something years, I did the same thing until I found out it doesn't work for me. I'm dying. There's got to be something else. No, there's lots.
Cool. Let's take more
Thank you.
questions.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.